Gardner, Kansas. Call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, good evening, everyone. Got a few faces out there. Good to see. Right, we have no presentations this evening, no public hearings. We do have some time for public comments. So members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. If you wish to come forward, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. There is a 5-minute time clock to your left. No profanity, no personal attacks. With that being said, come forward and state your name and address for the record. The podium is now open.
My name is Bob Graham. I'm a resident on North Center Street. And I'm here kind of in regard to the discussion that the council had 2 weeks ago on truck traffic and traffic issues on North Center Street. I've lived there for 10 years. I think I got a little insight on what goes on that street. And a couple of things I'd like to mention. I mean, I've got 2 years worth of notes, comments of people I've talked to about this in the council, in public works, police department, and we're right where we were 2 years ago. The council discussed this in February. Let me look at this. September of 2021. Basically the same thing that you discussed 2 weeks ago. I mean, a lot of you are still members of the council that were here then. Talked about the truck traffic, about we should try and enforce it a little more, looking at those things. So I just came up to try to offer some insight and say, what can we do? What do we need to look at? I know there's a huge division on what can come through there and what can't come through there. And I guess my first question is, what does no trucks mean? I mean, that's a question for you guys. What does no trucks mean? Because I hear different things from different departments about what that means. So, anybody? I mean.
Well, sir, we usually don't do a back and forth discussion during the public comments, but we can bring it up again at the end of the meeting and have discussion on it.
Okay, because I mean, depending on the answer that the police department comes up with or you come up with, there's no sense in me even talking. Because I'm getting different comments about what no trucks mean, what we're going to enforce and what we're not going to enforce. And the reason it's still an issue is because it's not being enforced. The trucks using that as a through truck route, it's still not being enforced. And there was a lot of comments made 2 weeks ago from different council members about different things, but I didn't see an answer or where we're going, you know, or who do I need to talk to? So that's why I'm here, to see that. The second thing was that I heard some numbers on truck traffic. You know, what percentages are acceptable and what aren't. I don't know how you judge that. It changes from day to day. Some days we may have, who knows, 20 dump trucks go through there. That's not part of Marsick or Kalmar. I've seen police cars follow these guys through there, especially from the south. They come in from the south. I've seen over the years, seen the police cars go through there. I'll go step out the end of my driveway and look north. These trucks go right straight north out of town towards the lake. Police car turns. So I don't understand what the enforcement is. So I guess that's the big thing. And then I've got a lot of other things that I've went over. Traffic counts. I understand we just did a traffic count again, 2 weeks ago? Again, that's another question, I guess. You know, so I mean, there's some questions. I've got traffic counts from 2020 and 2021 that Public Works gave me. And at that time, they said there was 86 trucks a day going through there. that was before Marsick and Kallmeyer really got rolling. About 2 months later, after the truck signs went up, I was home one day and I said, I'm just gonna count this. I wrote a traffic complaint and I counted 36 trucks in there that weren't Kallmeyer or Marsick. And so I'm just looking at this of, you know, if, depending on what is stated and what's decided about the no trucks, then that's a no issue, I'll drop it. You know, I've got other issues with speeding and running the red lights at Madison. You know, we just had the huge incident at school zones. I mean, I sit up there at Wheat Ridge and watch them go through there, and it's like, it's scary. And I'm not even out there, I'm sitting in the parking lot watching, waiting for my grandkids. But I guess that's all I've got to say. I mean, if somebody would be willing to talk to me, either any other time, I'd be glad to meet with anybody and go over what I have, try and give you some insight.
Okay, and I think if you stay around, one of us will bring it up in council discussion. We can have some talk about it as well.
Okay, because I got time frames, I got all of those things that, you know, like I said, I got 2 years worth of stuff here that I've been tracking.
All right.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment?
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to consent agenda. Is there an item on the consent agenda Councilman would like to remove? 4. Any other items? Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda items number 1 through 3?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Shoot. We approve consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3 pass. Consent agenda item number 4, consider authorizing the execution of an agreement with Haynes Equipment to restore a media filter at Hillsdale Water Treatment Plant.
I was concerned with the timeline on, I know it says that we're doing the emergency purchase procedure so we can get any bids, but it was on the last year's CIP and we did an audit of it in August. Why didn't we have enough time to get bids?
So on this agenda item specific, it's only for one filter. The original plan after the inspection that was done in, I believe, August, September, the inspection report recommended replacing all the media for the filters. We had 7 filters. So the plan was to have a RFP or a bid by the end of December. We were short-staffed in 2022, and we had other priorities, so we were not able to push the RFP or the bid request prior to the end of 2022. We had a deadline of January 24th. You will see your project updates. We missed that deadline. 2 weeks later, there was a email from Hillsdale Water Treatment Plant requesting to put a hold on the actual request because there was some discrepancies between the manuals and the drawings regarding the media grid or specification. So we put a stop on the actual putting out the RFP. At that point, we were ready February, starting March. The second upgrade or expansion of Hillsdale, the actual design is very marginal. So when you take any piece of equipment out, the old plant cannot actually produce what it was designed for. So talking with the plant superintendent, Lisa said, I'm very concerned that we won't be able to actually generate enough water for starting March, April. So that's the reason I requested an emergency just to restore that filter back to service. The plan is to go ahead and put out a request or a proposal for the replacement of the other media on the other 6 filters.
The new position, what is the asset manager? Is that,
Asset management coordinator.
yes, would that be something that would fall under their jurisdiction to kind of help coordinate some of that?
So we have the utility manager, which is Jeff Lemire. Then we used to have a staff engineer, which helps the manager with RFPs or bids. Then we used to have the engineering tech help us out also with requests. We lost those two positions in early 2022 and late 22. So we were down two positions. We hired a new staff engineer, and he's getting trained and getting up to speed. The position for the asset manager management coordinator is more into integrating GIS and Lucity. Lucity is our asset management software.
Gons, I read through the proposal, and I also read through the justification that you used, but my question is, why would we have been in a position where we have to make an emergency requisition in the first place? In other words, I understand what we're doing with the asset manager and how we're trying to get ahead of some of these purchases, but should we have one or two of those filtration systems in reserve just in case we were to have a failure? I'm just asking that out loud.
So the media filters we installed, the original plan had 5.
Yep.
We added 2 during the 2006 expansion. In 2017, I believe, we did an inspection on all 7 filters. The recommendation was to go back in 2022 and see what's the status of the media. So we did the inspection 2022.
Yep.
At the end of September, October, it was a recommendation to go ahead and replace everything.
Correct.
So by the time we start rolling into getting the proposals out, we just run out of time.
Oh, no, I totally understand that. What I'm saying is that, let's say we know we're getting up close to end of life on a couple of those media filters. Is there a possibility that we could have 1 or 2 in reserve? Because we know what they fit. We know that is they're standard filters for these media filters. Can we have 1 or 2 in reserve just in case we have to have an immediate replacement?
You're talking about having the media itself?
So,
Yes.
to be clear, when Gonz is saying the media, the filter's media, he's talking about like you have
Yes.
a frame and you
Yes.
replace it in charcoal, let's say.
Correct.
Right? So we don't have a supply of extra charcoal sitting around. It's not like an air, your HVAC filter, you just slide it. Right. So you'd have to have all those chemicals or that media sitting
Yes.
somewhere in a tank, and we don't have that.
Correct.
Right, Gonz?
Correct. And then the nozzles, they have a new upgrade that needs to be, so the nozzles and the media needs to be replaced.
Okay.
So we just
And
don't.
we cannot get
We don't
enough,
s-
we
don't
cannot
store
get
any of
it.
that media anywhere on site. We don't store any of that media on site.
The other thing is that the second expansion, they actually installed 4 new basins for the filters. However, they can only use 2 because 2 of the locations were in the wrong place. So if you go to Hillsdale, you will see 2 empty basins that were originally for the spare filters, but they cannot be used. So
I just want to stay away from emergency expenditures if we can. I mean,
And we try to do that as much as possible, but when it comes to the integrity and being able to produce water, we were in a bind.
all right.
Anything else? All right, do I have a motion for consent agenda item number 4?
So moved.
You asked the question.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Shoot, that we authorize the execution of an agreement with Haynes Equipment to restore a media filter at Hillsdale Water Treatment Plant. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Consent agenda item number 4 passes. Nothing on planning and zoning consent, no committee recommendations, no old business. We'll move to new business. New business item number 1, consider adopting an ordinance regulating traffic upon the streets, alleys, and highways of the city, incorporating by reference the standard traffic ordinance for Kansas City's edition of 2022, with additions and amendments as noted. Amy Foster.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is our annual standard traffic ordinance, getting that passed so that we can use the updated version, the 2022. They actually released them July, August time, and so that's why we're just now coming to you with staff and getting those out. So they'll release a new one mid-year 2023. So this year there wasn't a whole lot of changes. The ones that affect Gardner the most are they did pass a addition that allows for our court, specifically the judge, to write off fees, to waive penalties, fines and fees for DUI individuals who complete a assigned treatment, and so they can reduce up to, they have to submit $250 to the state, which is a DUI fee, for either a regular driver's license or a CDL compartment, and so it gives the judge the right to waive that to promote them for going through an evaluation and a treatment plan. And then it also added that electric assisted bicycles can be driven on streets and highways without a driver's license or insurance. Before they kind of left out electric bicycles, so now they've actually added that in to address them. And so that is out there. They do have to comply with street law, but they are now part of allowance on streets and highways. And then we have our routine that we usually add. So for careless driving, we do change the penalties for driving under the influence of intoxicating liquor or drugs to include a third conviction. That is so if the district court kicks it back and won't try it as a felony, we can still process it in municipal court. And so that's the only reason why we have that in an ordinance and don't follow the STO. And then prohibiting the use of any compression release engine braking system, and then establishing the maximum speed limits for streets and parks within the city. And then they just updated the year to reflect the 2022 edition throughout the book. So.
Thank you. Any public comment on new business item number 1? Council, do you have questions, comments? Do I hear motion for new business item number 1?
So moved.
Second.
I never did. I thought I tried.
Motion Deaton, second Ween. That we adopt ordinance number 2761, an ordinance regulating traffic upon the streets, alleys, and highways of the city of Gardner, Kansas, incorporating by reference the standard traffic ordinance for Kansas City's edition of 2022, and all acts supplementary and amendatory thereto, prepared and published in booklet form by the League of Kansas Municipalities. Certain chapters of Title 10 of the Municipal Code of the City of Gardner, Kansas, 2021 edition, with certain deletions, omissions, changes, and additions, prescribing additional regulations and repealing ordinance number 2681 under the provisions of KSA 12-3009 through 12-3012 and KSA 12-3301 and 12-3302.
Mr. Mayor, I think there was a typo in that. It had 2021.
Okay.
It should just be noted as 2020.
2022. I don't have to read everything again. Fair enough. Okay. City Clerk.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Ordinance number 2761 passes. New business item number 2, consider adopting an ordinance fixing certain standards of conduct for persons within the city, making violation of any such standards a public offense, subject to penalty, incorporating by reference the Uniform Public Offense Code for the Kansas City's edition of 2022, with additions, deletions, and amendments set forth therein.
Okay, so you thought that last one was pretty short. This one's even shorter. They did quite a few things less. They cleaned up a lot of the ordinances that they had, just with language, adding definitions. One of the big ones that they added was the addition of a 1030 section, which is making it illegal to operate an aircraft under the influence. Now, I did some research, and what I can find is that this was actually netted in something else, and the state thought it was necessary to break it out into its own individual class. So it was illegal before. This just spells out a few more things. So just to clarify that, because it did kind of spark some interest in me as well, that it was like, surely that was illegal before this year. But so anyway, so they did make it its own section, which then also led us to have to do a whole lot of renumbering in our sections. And so that was most of what we're cleaning up, is the numbering when you look at that ordinance. Everything else pretty much stays the same. The other change that was done by the state was taking out pronouns, and so they cleared that up through the UPOC and took out all the his and her pronouns. So that was something that is following through, I think, on all state statutes, and so this goes through this Uniform Public Offense Code as well. So everything else pretty much stayed the same this year except for those things.
Thank you. Any public comment on new business item number 2? Council? Questions, comments? Do I hear a motion from new business item number 2?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Shoot, second Deaton. That we adopt ordinance number 2762, an ordinance fixing certain standards of conduct for persons within the city of Gardner, Kansas, making violation of any such standards a public offense, subject to penalty, incorporating by reference the Uniform Public Offense Code for Kansas City's edition of 2022, and all acts supplementary and amendatory thereto, prepared and published in booklet form by the League of Kansas Municipalities, and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith under the provisions of KSA 12-3009 through 12-3012 and KSA 12-3301 and 12-3302. City Clerk.
Councilmember Deaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Shute.
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Yes.
Councilmember Ween.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2762 passes. Thank you
Thank you.
for all your work.
Thanks, Amy.
All right, no further new business. So we will move to council updates, and I might start with City Administrator. I don't know if you could share some information on the truck routes and start that discussion.
So, Mr. Graham.
Yeah.
So the city has a ordinance that establishes where the truck routes are in the city. The no trucks is intended to keep trucks that have no business on the other roadways off those roads. But an exception to the truck routes is that if you have business and it's the most direct route, and because Gardner has so few routes, because we have 56 Highway, we have Moonlight, we have Center or Gardner Road South, there's a lot of trucks that have business north on Center Street. So you mentioned the two companies, but we also have a lot of construction in the area of 167th and Kill Creek. So when officers have pulled over vehicles on North Center, the large majority of them have business that would allow them to be on that roadway as part of the exception to the ordinance. So it's an arterial road. So most of the traffic that is not traveling on 56 and on the truck routes, they're going to use North Center Street primarily to get to where they have to go. So the county also has business outside of the city limits, and if a truck needs to get to somewhere, they can be on North Center Street.
I fully understand that. Fully
No trucks
understand that.
really doesn't mean no trucks. It means
Well,
that
that's
no
what I'm
trucks
trying-
Unless,
That's just what I'm trying to clarify is because I've had members of the police department tell me different things about what no trucks. So we got no trucks at 56 signs going north.
right,
We have no trucks at 151st Street coming south. Okay?
that's the county has those.
Right. Well, no, it's a city no truck sign up there at 151st Street and Gardner Road.
We don't have, that's not in our city limits.
Kellen's, yeah, he was involved in putting that up there.
We discussed it with the county when that sign was put in. I can't remember if we put it up or if the county did, but it was discussed. With
So if you consider that, there's really no way to get south from 151st Street. I mean, Moonlight is not as conducive to traveling as Center Street is. Center Street's a better road to travel. So, you know, sending them down Moonlight from 151st Street is really, I mean, it's the same thing. It's a no truck route. So it's the most direct route from one truck route to the destination or from one truck route to the nearest truck route.
So okay, let me simplify that from my standpoint. And I've been told this before, that we're not gonna stop any trucks on that street if they have a location within Gardner going south or outside of Gardner going north. We're not gonna stop anybody. That's what I've gotten from the police department. And I'm not jumping on you, I'm just saying, hey, I think the police are doing everything they can do. I probably talked to 6 or 7 of them, from patrol officers, patrol sergeants, all the way up to a captain. And these patrol officers, they really want to do what they're supposed to do. But they're also very open about why they're not able to do that. And so I just think that I need to understand, and I understand exactly what you said, then why do we have the no truck signs up? Those were put up for a reason. And what I was told the reason those were put up was nobody was supposed to be coming through there in a truck unless they have a destination within that area, a business or a residence or a construction site. Is that wrong?
No. Or if they're going from one truck route to the nearest truck route.
So that just throws everything out then.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, with two companies that have trucks at the north end of North Center before you get to 167th Street, yeah, that's.
I'm not even talking about them
And then
because
pushing that-
they've got a right to come in and out of there.
Right.
So I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the trucks that are still using that as a through truck route into Gardner, from Gardner out.
So there's really no other northbound route to get from 56 to 151st Street.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. We've got New Century, we've got Old 56, we've got Moonlight, we've got all of those. And what we have, and I've had the discussion with other people in here, where are these trucks coming from? I've been asked that question probably 15 times in conversations. Where are these trucks coming from?
Well, we have
Why
two
are they
large
asking?
industrial parks that are border Gardner, so it's, I mean, they could be coming from anywhere. I mean,
Well,
honestly, they could be coming northbound on Gardner Road from the intermodal. I mean, there's commercial truck traffic is prevalent in Gardner.
Okay, well, I just, because then that's a moot area. If we're just gonna ignore that, if those no truck signs don't mean anything, then I have a moot point talking about trucks. And if that's the decision of what it is, that we're just gonna ignore anybody that comes through there, then I'll drop it and I'll live with it. But there's another whole issue surrounding the truck traffic on those streets. And that's also part of this. And so I'm just trying to, I've talked to individuals, and I'm trying to get a group consensus of what are we doing and what are we gonna talk about here?
We're not ignoring the trucks, I mean, we're still making stops.
How many $200 tickets have we written on trucks on North Center Street in the last, say, 18 months? Yeah, it ought to be, it's gonna be a low number. if any?
So the truth is, Mr. Graham, that, so if we're pulling over trucks and 95% of them have a legitimate reason to be there, and we have limited resources on how many officers we have available for that type of activity, it's difficult for us to just park somebody there and pull over every single truck.
I fully understand that, and I'm in full agreement with
So
that.
it's the prioritization of where we're gonna put our resources.
And I mean, I made the comment that I've talked to police officers, and they're very upfront about, you know, how they feel about things and what they have to do. And part of that is we can't be every place. I mean, that comes back to this, to me, the city council of saying, you know, let's get these guys the equipment they need. Let's get more manpower in here if that's what we need.
Well, Mr. Graham, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
And I fully agree with what you're saying. Our council has been very supportive of us with getting us equipment, getting us what we need, getting us our pay that we need. The problem is that we, as well as other agencies, as well as other agencies here in the county, are still having a problem getting people hired to bring our staffing up to where we need it to be.
Yeah, I read that.
I wish I could snap my fingers and solve that. I mean,
No.
I really do. With any luck, I'm hoping I'm going to be making 3 or 4 offers here in the next week for some officers, which I think is a byproduct of our pay increase that our council did for us. But like the city administrator said, I would love to be able to put, you know, somebody there or somebody over here, there. You understand, you know, we just don't have the
fully.
resources to do it, and you know, we're trying to figure out how to cover shifts.
I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I mean, I'm very understanding of, you know, what the police department does, but I'm just saying from the communication from 2 weeks ago, I'm saying that just totally confused me about what we're doing and what points people made. And, I mean, just today we had dump trucks going north with cement in the back, big chunks of cement going up around the lake. I mean, is that a stoppable truck? I mean, probably 2 weeks ago, we had a half a dozen dump trucks come in on Moonlight, and I wrote this in my email I sent you guys, coming across 167th Street, the brand new street up there, and then coming south on Moonlight. Is that a stoppable truck? They're loaded with gravel. They're not
Would
coming
depend on
from
where
any.
where they're coming from and where they're going.
Have we collected data on the stops we have made, right? We don't have manpower to sit out there all day, but the ones we have done, and we know that there's very few that are actually in violation. But have we noted where they're coming from, where they're going,
So
so
the
that we know that information?
Well, that's when the officers make the stop. That's part of their Q&A that they have with the driver. It's to answer your question. It's not a documented, but it is during the stop. If that makes sense.
So I guess I would,
So if you're asking for verification,
no,
okay.
it's not about the verification. I'm thinking we should document it because let's say the officer asks, is it going here? And it's a legit reason, right? That could be the end of the conversation. But if we document where it's coming from, maybe we would have more insight as to where we should make a new truck route in the next 10 years, right? Because maybe, yes, they are coming from this truck route to that truck route, but the reason they're coming that way is because it's easier when they got off I-35 and they could have got off at the first exit and went up Moonlight, right? So maybe the reason that they got there is not conducive to what we really want here. But once they get there, well, they can do essentially what you're saying, and that's fine, right? We can't stop that for that reason. But if they're coming from another reason, maybe we align things in such a way that they can't get there as easily.
I think that was the original that I read, was right from the beginning when the no trucks went up. It came out that the officers were going to ask, how did you get here? You know, why are you here? Those types of things. I think that's what you're asking,
Well,
right?
2 weeks ago, I believe that was when it was specifically about 189th Street and the number of axles and such. I asked for that.
No, we
No.
talked about
Oh,
this.
no, it was that.
This is
That was a
different.
month ago. Sorry.
Yeah, this is different.
But there are so few truck routes that it's not about moving routes. I mean, you would have to literally add routes to make what you talked about relevant, because there's only, I mean, you've got 56 highway, you have south of 56 on Gardner Road. So you would, if you have that information, add truck routes, not subtract them.
No.
Because there's really nowhere to subtract from.
No, I understand that. What I mean is, we've got to look out for the next 10 years, 25 years, right? So maybe we need to consider whether or not Waverly Road ends up as a truck route next to those schools or not, right? Not saying that's a good idea, but hey, if we don't have options where they can go, or maybe Four Corners ends up being a truck route once it ends up in Gardner eventually, right? So just looking at where we could put them and how that would route people around is all. I'm not saying do anything. I'm not saying what we're doing is wrong. I'm just saying let's collect the data for the future.
Well, I'm just looking to try to address something. The next phase of this thing is the street condition, and that's really where the trucks come in. That street has gotten so bad again that, it was that way 2 years ago, and this truck's going through, there's big enough dips in it that it's shaking the houses. And Kellen took care of it once. They did. They came out there and is everybody familiar with the term wide cracks? You know what they are? Well, that's what we've got. We had that from 56 up through the 400 block 2 years ago, I think it was, roughly. And Kellen sent a couple of guys out. They looked at it. They stood there while the trucks went through, and probably a month later, they came out and patched those wide cracks. Those wide cracks have now sunk again. I used collapsed when I talked to Kellen the other day, but he didn't like that term. So okay, there we compressed. I think I used compressed in my email, but
And the soils in that area aren't exactly the greatest either.
well,
we've
there's.
had issues.
I'm an outsider
Yeah.
here, and I think it's a case of a street that's not built for truck traffic,
No, it's not.
and now you've got the wide cracks, which they wash out underneath, and then the blacktop sinks in, and you got 35, 40-ton semis going through there, and the truck route, that truck route is not built to handle any trucks. It's just not made for it. So now we've got wrecking a street, which I don't see how that's good business either, because and now we're back. They fixed them in spring of 2021. I've got them all in my notes, but I think spring of 2021, about April, May, the street came out and dug them all up, patched all those cracks, and it was fantastic for about 6 or 8 months. And then they started to compress. This would have been by fall of 2021. And now here we are, spring of 2023, and those all things are looking like this out there. And you got trucks bouncing through them, you got school buses, you can feel them. There's multiple issues here. If we didn't have trucks in that street, we probably wouldn't have to repair that street. Was it scheduled for next year, I think, now? And, to me, that doesn't seem like a good fiscal thought process that says, okay, we're gonna let trucks go on there, but it's gonna destroy our street.
That's what the gist of this is, though, is that we can't stop them.
Well,
if they have a legitimate reason, then they can be on that road.
I know I can't stop them.
So,
But to the other point, like we discussed at the last meeting, is that if North Center Street, we have those two businesses at the end of the street at 167th Street, we have traffic going through there. I think that's maybe the best route to get up and around the lake instead of Moonlight. When we do go to do Center Street, we need to take that into consideration and know that it's going to be used as a truck route, whether we like it or not.
And I don't care what it's used as. If you want to make it a full-blown truck route, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I live there. I can put up with that. But what I have a problem with is when it's not maintained. If we're going to redo it and do a mill and an overlay, a year later, you won't even know you did it. It'll be so rough. And if you want to look at that, go up at 167th Street. It was just done this summer. You drive across that, you can already feel it. And that they can't have anywhere near the truck traffic that Center Street does.
It has quite a bit, though, because we're doing construction along.
Okay, well, then pay attention to what the street's doing, because it's definitely not like it was this summer. It's considerably rougher.
But both of those are on the horizon.
But if we're going to turn North Center into a truck route, then that whole thing needs to be dug up, a new base put down, just like a highway. I mean, it really does. And I don't know that the city can afford that.
Yeah, we look at all the streets in the city and we do an assessment on which streets are prioritized.
Mhm.
So Center Street's on the map for next year.
Yeah.
We are not gonna make that a heavy haul road, but we're not gonna do a full reconstruction on Center.
Well, then I think we're just repeating what we have right now. And a total waste of money, in my mind. If you're looking for a long-term solution to a problem, you know, unless we're gonna do more than what I think we're gonna do. I don't know what the choices are.
Putting in a full concrete base is definitely, as you said, is prohibitively expensive.
Oh, yeah, I think so too, but
And-
the base underneath the dirt is part of the problem.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, it's the soils. The soils don't compact well in that.
yeah.
area.
Well, and they'll repair the base where it's failed. Even if they do a mill and overlay, they will repair the base, just like on 167th Street. They will go down and repair the base where the base is failed.
Right.
It just won't be a complete reconstruction.
Yeah, which is what they did when they did the maintenance out on Center Street
Right.
2 years ago. They came in, dug them up. I don't know how deep they went. They probably went a couple of feet. And then came in and compacted them, poured the blacktop over the top or whatever it was. And like I said, 6 or 9 months later, you could feel them already. So, I mean, to me, just common sense tells me that's not the solution. Then what is the solution?
It's a situation where it's an arterial road, and we will maintain it as an arterial road, but it's a with local traffic, you just can't keep the trucks off of it unless they don't have a legitimate reason to be there. And anecdotally, 95% of them have a legitimate reason to be there.
Yeah, well, that's a difference in opinion. We'll agree to not agree on that because I don't know how you figure that number when we don't know what trucks are going through there and who and when and all that stuff. I don't know how you can say 95% of them are
The ones
okay.
that are stopped,
Yeah,
the officers talked to.
yeah. I'd still be curious to how many $200 tickets we were out on North Center between 56 and 167th. Because if we haven't, then we're not enforcing it.
Chief, can we get citation numbers on those stops on Center?
I
So
know
that we
that-
can have it for the record.
I know that right after that happened, right after the no truck signs went up, I saw something that came out of the police department that they had, I think, 7 officers stopped 11 trucks out there on North Center. But none of them were tickets for no trucks. You know, none of them were 200, it was just normal stoppage. But I don't see people stopped out there. I don't see them stopped out there for speeding. I don't see them, the truck stopped. I just don't.
We've stopped a lot of folks for speeding on Center, haven't we? I mean,
Yeah, I don't have the numbers, but it's just, I mean, yeah, we do normal business in there and
Yeah.
other streets.
Yeah.
I mean, to try to say how many we have, and is that, you know, I'm never gonna tell our people to go out and write tickets. I'm just never gonna do that. They have to have discretion when they're out there stopping people. And, you know, whether it's Center Street or 167, I mean, obviously the major thoroughfares, we're active a lot more in those because we have a lot more traffic. But, you know, to start, you know, guessing on numbers, it would just be a guess when it comes to
Sure.
citations.
Yep.
I mean, I see the police cars driving up and down the street, you know, but my understanding is they don't have the radar units to stop people meeting them or following them, correct?
No, we
No.
have, that's
Yeah.
not, we have really good radar equipment in our cars.
Yeah, but we,
Actually, front and back.
we can go front and back? Okay, I didn't know that. But, and then that makes me wonder more why we're not stopping more people, you know?
Well, again, it's a matter of priorities.
Yeah,
So if we're going to concentrate on speed enforcement, it's gonna be backed up by crash data. I mean, that's where we're gonna make a priority is if we're having accidents or we're having behaviors that are reported to us that are dangerous to, you know, school zones,
Schools,
things like that.
yeah.
We don't just park on Center Street and start writing speeding tickets unless there's a legitimate reason to be there. We do not have the manpower to do that.
So we've upped enforcement on Madison, West Madison. We've upped enforcement on Waverly. Because
Well,
those
Madison needs it.
yeah, well,
Madison truly needs it
most certainly.
because of school zones and those crosswalks up there and kids
And-
going across there all the time.
And I know we've upped enforcement on Moonlight Road south of 56. So those are the areas of
Yeah.
concern right now, from what I understand. I think those are the three areas, especially Madison.
Well, they run through North Center a lot. They really do, and they're
So,
trucks and cars, so. Okay, so, I mean, are you saying to me to just call it the police department and report stuff? Is that gonna make a difference? I mean, is that what you're telling me, if you get things reported?
As far as for speed enforcement,
Speeding, trucks running red lights, cars running red lights?
yeah, you can make we can still do those online.
mhm.
You can make traffic complaints.
Well, I'm not gonna bug people. I mean, you can ask anybody here that I've talked to, I don't bug them. But I do follow up, and I do get
Sure.
pretty direct about things. Because I think that, you know, people are overwhelmed in what they're trying to do, and if you don't keep talking to them, it's just, nobody's ever gonna notice. And so that's what I try to do, and that's why I'm here tonight. Just trying to let more people know what's really going on out there. I mean, I don't appreciate my house shaking with trucks going through there. And it's not because of the street, it's because of the condition of the street. I mean, Kellen and I have talked about Madison and Center. That intersection is, wow. That thing is horrible.
Mhm.
I don't know if it'll last another year. You know, personally. Huh?
It will.
Well, okay,
It'll last until the project is completed.
okay,
A year and a half to 2 years.
okay.
Yep.
I mean, I've seen it decline pretty dramatically, so. I mean, I get the same answer here that I get from everybody. It's just like, oh, well, that's just the way it is, the way it's gonna be. And I was hoping that maybe somebody would step up and say, hey, let's take a closer look at this.
I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that we've had those discussions about taking a closer look. I mean, and I don't think that we have a confusion now as to what no trucks means. I think it's pretty clear per the statute as well as per our policies. I mean, I think that as a situation, we're just kind of a little bit of a bind ourselves between resource issues and, you know, just being able to, you know, stop trucks that have a legitimate business purpose. I mean, it's kind of our hands are somewhat tied on that. Because
sorry.
we'd be violating statutes if we did stop them, if they did have a legitimate business purpose in there. We start writing citations on trucks that have legitimate purposes, then we're in trouble. We have an
Well,
issue.
You're verifying what I need to know, that, hey, we're not gonna stop trucks. You know, if
No.
It's not an all or nothing.
No.
It's just that the trucks that have been stopped, you know, if 100 were stopped, 95 of them were able to be there. And we can't do anything about that.
We cite the other
Just-
5
we're
and
not,
go on.
Right, we can't,
Yeah.
there is none.
I'm sorry, did we also talk about, we wanted to, survey Center Street the
Yes.
last meeting that we had to? And
Yes.
We were talking about surveying 199th, we wanted to survey Center Street again.
Yes.
And
Yes.
get
We're
data
done
on
with
that.
199th, aren't we?
We're done with 199th. We put counters out on Center. We had a counter fail, so we're gonna do it again.
I was gonna
Okay.
say, they just took it down a couple of
Correct.
weeks ago.
Yeah. So we are moving. We're moving or trying to get some more information, trying to identify how to best resolve the situation. Having said that, you can understand there's constraints that we're under as a city,
Oh, yeah.
and so we're trying to work through those as best we can. That's all I can say, Mr. Graham. Is that's all we can promise at this point. I think I kind of speak for the rest of the council on that.
Okay. Okay, well, I appreciate your time. It's not what I was hoping to hear, because, you know, it's a bigger issue than that. I mean, I've got dishes rattling in my kitchen cupboard sometimes. That's how bad it is. Depending on what trucks come through there, how many axles, what combination of vibration it sets up. You know, you can feel it in the house, you can feel it outside the house. And I don't know how far we go before we just say, hey, maybe, you know, maybe we ought to do something. So, but I've been told we're not gonna do anything, so I mean, Kellen and I have had that discussion that he's not gonna do anything out there. And so,
I don't know if I'd say that.
No,
I mean, we're planning to rebuild,
well, no,
Fix
I
that road,
understand that.
so-
I'm talking about today. You know,
Well,
something needs to be done.
I mean, we can't do it today. That's the problem. We've got the entire city to look at and the priorities, and that road with the condition it's in can last until it can get to that project.
Yeah, and he
There's
shared,
things that have to get done before then.
Kellen shared that with me.
So,
We've
I mean,
had
that's
a-
just, you know.
We've had a couple of pretty good direct conversations. And he's been straight with me and I've been straight with him. I mean, you know.
I mean,
So-
we it's gonna sound hollow to you, but we care about what's going on Center Street.
I didn't say you didn't care,
Okay,
did I?
I
If I
think you
did, I
said we
didn't
weren't
mean
doing
to.
anything or that we were
Because
ignoring it.
that always raises everybody's ruffles when you say that.
Oh, no, I'm saying that we got the sense that you're saying that we are ignoring it, that nothing's going to happen.
I just want to make sure everybody knows it, that everybody's
where-
here knows
Oh,
exactly
we
what's
know.
going on.
We know, I mean, we've got folks here that live right off of these corridors that are not truck routes.
Mhm.
I mean, how far are you from Waverly Road, Mark?
Oh, I'm pretty.
There are trucks that go right down Waverly Road to get over to the construction sites over at
Mhm.
Symphony Farms, and they are big trucks and they're heavy trucks and they, make rumbles down there. So we understand. We live it. I'm right off the South Center, and even though it's considered a truck route, it's not really a heavy haul corridor by any means, and we hear the trucks come up and down that road all the time too.
Yeah.
So
I'd
we
be
live.
interested, Kellen, in what numbers you come up with on your traffic counts. Because I know 3 years ago it was, right at 5,000 a day. Madison and Center was right at 7,000 a day. That came from Seth when I was talking to him. That was in 2018, 2019. I think one of them was in 2021. He said so. It's gotten a ton heavier since then. Really has. I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate you listening.
No, we
I appreciate you
wanted to
not
give you as
telling me
much
to go
time.
take a hike and all
We,
of that good
we
stuff.
try to give you as much time as possible, sir. I mean, we're doing our best we can,
Okay, well,
and we appreciate your
I guess the
time.
next step's up to me then. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes. I'm going to be sending out an information request to all the governing body members to try to set a baseline for our goal discussion on the 28th. I should have that out by the end of next week. So be expecting that in your email. The last thing, the police chief process, we are down to 5 finalists. The interviews are going to be Wednesday and Thursday. My goal originally was to have somebody in place by the time that Jay left on the 31st. That may not happen depending on how long the background takes, how long polygraph and psych, and then employer notification. But I will likely come to the council with a recommendation the first meeting in April. So it'll be sometime in April, have somebody in place.
So is Captain Croc going to serve as interim in the
He's
meantime?
in the process, so I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't determined that yet.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last thing is I attended a workshop for regional coordination for the Panasonic and the Astra development. It was really well attended, about 150 people. We talked about things like transportation and land use and housing and education and training. And there's going to be a regional effort to put together steering committees for each so that we can try to collaborate on those things. Panasonic has a very aggressive timeline, and up to this date, they're meeting that timeline. They want to be operational first quarter of 2025. So everything's moving really quickly, and we are right in the middle of those discussions. So I'll update everybody as I get additional information.
Is there a workforce working group as well for housing and transportation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Well, yes, that's planned. We haven't made assignments yet, but yes, that's
Okay.
part of the discussion.
I'd love to be a part of that if at all possible. I don't know if there's anybody who can be appointed from the different governing bodies, but I think it makes sense.
I would bring that back to everybody if that comes up.
Okay, great, thank you.
I know you're really busy at the lake and at the.
Oh, well, yeah, the lake, yeah.
Sit you out on North Center Street.
Well, you know, North Center Street, that is the big corridor now for all that stuff, you know. That's
City
right.
Attorney?
Nothing for me.
Deputy Administrator?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Finance?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight.
You got you for 2 more meetings, is that right, Chief? 1 more after this?
Well, if this one's almost done, one. But nothing tonight, thank you.
Guns?
Yes, last Friday, the city was the recipient of a award of honor along with Burns and Mack and CAS constructors from the Associated General Contractors of Kansas for in the design build category for the Hillsdale Water Treatment Plant expansion. Here. There were a lot of different companies, so we took one of the highest awards.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Jason? Parks and Rec?
Couple things. We just wrapped up youth basketball in the schools again last weekend. I just wanted to give kudos to school district staff, John Duncanson and his staff. They were really easy to work with. It went pretty smooth for the first season. Mother Nature cooperated, so that was very helpful. Appreciate some of our volunteer coaches that are setting up there. Some of you were brave enough to do soccer, which starts this coming week.
Yeah, a couple of us.
Had our teams formed and coaches meetings yesterday and this evening. And we have seasonal staff that's being onboarded. So you're gonna start seeing some activity at the aquatic center over spring break. We're gonna bring some managers in to do some cleaning. And speaking of pools, we are going to offer pool passes starting Monday. So you'll start seeing that.
So how's our staffing looking right now? Do we have enough applicants to be able to have full shifts at the pool right now, or are
I'll
we still?
always take more lifeguards for sure.
Absolutely.
So right now I think we're sitting around 50. So that's pretty good.
That is pretty
Typically,
good.
we have 1 or 2 times in the season where we'll pick up 5 or 10 more. So knock on wood, right now we're sitting pretty good.
Good, that's good to hear, thanks.
Community Development?
Nothing tonight.
Public Works?
Nothing further tonight.
Councilman Weed?
Yeah, I'll bring up a couple things. I do appreciate the discussion on Center Street. I know I've had a couple of discussions with Mr. Graham over the time that I've been on the council, so appreciate the open discussion we had in the last meeting as well. I wanted to bring up, we had the long conversation about the lake, and I know you are speaking with them. And do we need to have or action a plan around dock fees now? Is my question. I mean, we had a long conversation, and then we talked that you were going to have a discussion with them, but I feel like maybe it's the time for us so that we don't fall into the same traps that we have in the past.
Sure.
That maybe we just need to pull the trigger on, because $40 a year is it's nothing.
Yeah.
And if we went to what your recommendation, maybe the start was 100 or 105, maybe somewhere in there, just to get us started, does that help us to understand where the community is up there and their interest in helping and where we're at?
So we do dock fees at the first of the year. So there are a couple other options that we've recently discussed that we haven't discussed with the governing body yet that we're exploring as far as cost recovery that I've spoken to Councilman Shute about. So I think that we have time to get to that point. There's a meeting later this month where we're going to start that discussion with the Lake Board. So we can still put that into place for next year, and we still have time to do that. I would like to further the discussions on some of the things that we've talked about before we get to that.
Okay. And I think the second thing that I have is, we have, I guess, Clearwave moving through our community.
They're tearing through it, I'll tell you.
Yeah, lots of questions about it. Is there anything that we need to say about, just so everybody understands what's going on there? Because I think there's questions about, are they in the community for us as Gardner, or are they kind of passing right through? And I think
No,
that's
it is for
unclear.
They're trying to provide service to Gardner. So,
Fiber to the home.
everybody nobody likes their yard getting torn up, and they have, one of the reasons that they're permitted through the city, even though we have to allow them to work in the utility easement, is so that we can make sure that it's returned to its functional equivalent.
Exactly.
So the gas line issue was not their fault, it was not marked, so, I know they took the brunt of the criticism, and there may be another company that's coming through that may duplicate some of the efforts, and, anytime that we can coordinate those, which is a difficult task because they're competitors, we will try to do that, but it's likely gonna be, revisited in the near future with the second company. So, in the longer term, we're gonna have better service, more competition. We just have to get through this part of the process.
Yeah.
I did have a complaint and I had pictures, et cetera, and I got an answer back very quickly from Jim, so thank you. But I did see a Facebook post that went out that same day that did kind of clarify some of the their issues and
Clearwave,
rules.
yeah.
I don't know if we need to do it again or do it once a month, or, because it does seem like there are a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I think it was more even before the incident on Grand is, they were moving across, I guess, the southern part of the city. And, I know that was recently that when Spring Hill said that they were, Clearwave was coming to Spring Hill, and I just want to make sure we weren't skipped.
Oh, no. This, Clearwave, I don't know if you know this, but Clearwave is, if you remember RG Fiber, Clearwave purchased RG's assets. So RG is already active in Spring Hill. It's already active in Baldwin City. They asked, 5 years ago, to run long-haul fiber through our community to get to Baldwin via Edgerton and Gardner. And now they're looking to deploy fiber to the home. So all the stuff you're seeing now, that's going through people's yards, all that is fiber to the home. And we understand there's people that have had some losses that have taken place, water lines and other things that have been hit. I think I put up a post there saying, the typical way that this works is that if the city has to repair those lines, that we would basically, bill back the contractor, whoever is doing the work for Clearwave, for to recover the cost for that. Am I not mistaken in that?
So the contractor is responsible
Yes.
for making those
Yeah.
repairs, and they've been pretty good about it so far. I've got a
Okay.
staff engineer who's spending about half of his time on Clearwave right now,
All right.
just coordinating.
So
the
they
issues
make the
and issues.
repairs, we're not making them and then billing them back, although.
We're ensuring that they get repaired as they have.
Okay,
It's more like a building inspector.
yeah, that's fine, I just know that if it's an emergency situation, large water line gets hit, a lot of times that's a
Well,
quick
Well, if it's
response.
city-
we had a gas line get hit that
Yeah.
buckled the street, so I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big deal.
If it's a city main or something like that, yeah, we'll oversee the repairs. So far, from what I recall, it's been just feed lines from the mains to.
Yeah, okay.
If that gas line wasn't marked and we hit it, is it marked now?
It was marked backwards
Okay. But we can
around the
write it that
cul-de-sac.
now, so if somebody else comes in, we'll have it
Yeah,
marked
the-
correctly.
Yeah,
Marked backwards? That is,
it was a loop around a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And it crossed on one side of the street. It was marked.
the reverse.
Oh, goodness. Wow.
Locating service didn't do their job there, I don't think. All right.
Councilman Roberts.
Yes, I do have something. The Public Works and Advisory Committee met last Monday, and one of the discussion items was trash on public and private streets, sidewalks, areas, etc. So during that discussion, there was some talk, and we didn't know if the city could investigate maybe something like an Adopt a Street program, that individuals, clubs, businesses could adopt that street. I know there'd be stuff to coordinate. Would we have a volunteer coordinator? Would we have the funds to do it? What about like certain supplies? And then most importantly, I think there'd been some discussion. I know that Jennifer Smith said she brought it up several times, or a few times, and there was liability issues. So we'd have to obviously look at that too. But I said I'd bring it up at the meeting to give everybody kind of an update of what we talked about. Did I sum that up pretty good? Do you have anything So I don't know if we need a decision right now, but this just, I throw it out so we can investigate it, see what our options are, if we would even want to, or just kind of keep it in mind. I did notice yesterday, I mean, Gardner's so flat and it was so windy yesterday. There was a lot of litter places, but
Yep.
up against fences. I mean, it makes sense in that it's a problem we have, but, and I don't know if this will fix it all, but I wanted to share with what we talked about.
We've looked into this before, correct?
Well, other than putting up a sign, there's really nothing the city needs to do. People can coordinate, Boy Scout troop can go out and do it on their own. They don't even have to contact us.
Yeah, most cities in Johnson County that have the program actually have a coordinator that runs the program. You know, that you have to pay for the signs, and then you have liability issues. So we looked at this maybe 5-6 years ago, and it was prohibitive. And I can't remember if NPR weighed in on this, but I can double check.
I wouldn't want to grow government for something that we don't send them out. They can go out on their own and do it.
Yeah, I know, like, for instance, I think Rotary,
Yep.
at some point this past year went out and they took a section of town and they just went out and did it.
Yeah, they don't have to ask permission.
Yeah, and as we get closer to Earth Day, I mean, the Boy Scouts are usually out, or scout troops out on the trail, which is usually pretty good because that gets pretty bad after a long winter.
So Parks and Rec all used to have an Earth Day, they still do have an Earth Day cleanup. Earth Day cleanup for our parks and our trails, like Gardner Greenway and places like that. So, yep. So we have been doing that, but it's been on our own city property.
Yeah, one of the primary concerns is the areas that are the worst are unimproved arterials, and probably the worst place to be wandering along the side of the road picking up trash is an unimproved arterial.
Oh, yeah.
That's really where the
167th Street.
liability questions come into
Yeah.
play. If I knew
167.
somebody was on a
Yep.
street cleaning it up, I would probably have my people go and close that lane because it's just too dangerous.
If we were going to have government look at this at all, I'd want to coordinate with the county and get the jail with the chain gang. I'm not kidding.
Well, I grew up in Jefferson City, which is the capital of Missouri, and there's also the Missouri State Penitentiary there. And I grew up, I mean, it was nothing to see prisoners
Prisoners out.
cleaning up
Cleaning
around
up.
the governor's mansion and the Capitol. And I mean, tomorrow, I mean, I know we kind of laughed when he said it, but I mean, that happens places.
Oh, it does.
And we got a jail system.
We do.
It just seems like liability issues.
There might be.
That's the county.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I brought it up, not that we have to do anything tonight, I just wanted to kind of get people thinking
No.
and see, and then, we won't have another meeting for a couple, I can't remember, but,
I believe 3 months.
so, well, by that time, we should have probably an update or some information, so, thank you.
Councilwoman Dean.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Council Vice President.
I didn't mention this last meeting, but I wanted to kind of give kudos over to the Southwest Johnson County EDC. They had their annual meeting over at the Warren Place venue, and it was really top notch. It was really good. Shirley Allenbrand pinch hit for the county chair, who couldn't make it because he had an out of town commitment. Did a tremendous job, and I am very happy that we have partners such as the EDC. Who are working on helping to foster the growth in our community, and I think you're seeing a lot of that. I don't know if you all have been over to Panda Express, but man, it is just packed like most every day, and that's just more money, more sales tax revenue coming in. It's more visibility in our community. We're getting a lot of people from out of town coming over there, and when South Gardner Road, we're going to have a couple more places down there to eat at and to be entertaining at. And I'm looking forward to seeing this growth continue. And with my conversations with Greg Martinet, who's done an amazing job as the president over there, there's so much on the plate right now. And understand, most places around the county aren't growing like we are. It's a lot of that has to do with the work that Greg and his team have been doing. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. That's it.
Thank you, Steve. Council President?
I don't know if it was Mark or Tori that mentioned the communication on Clearway, but I just wanted to say that when I saw Danika's, it might have been her first post or second, it showed the map with the overlay
Oh, yeah.
And not, it wasn't just, hey, they're in town and blah, blah, blah. So you kind of knew where they were going and what was going on. I thought that was good. Just wanted to throw that out to her.
Yeah, those maps were great.
That's it for me.
I have nothing further this evening. So, oh, yes, yeah. We did have Representative Sharice Davids came into town. That was
Friday.
Friday.
Mhm.
Friday. Thank you. Yeah.
Only a few days ago.
Yes, but you know, we talked about the appropriation for the
Yep.
Sewer and infrastructure projects that we're doing, and it was good feedback, good dialogue, good discussion, and you know, certainly we hope to next year also put in for more appointments like that. So it was good, and we appreciate her support doing that. And I think she was impressed with what we talked about with what we were doing with the funds. So she had a good understanding of kind of what we're using it for. So. Anything further? Did I miss anything on that one? Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion Deaton, second shoot. We adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're adjourned.
Oh.